Basketball Manitoba podcast, we have Eric Sung. He is currently the head coach of the Varsity Girls team at Dakota Collegiate and has been since 2015. Over the past 10 years, he's been involved with the provincial team program. He spent time as the head coach of the 15U Girls Provincial Team, the assistant coach with the 17U Girls Provincial Team, and head coach of the boys 15U Provincial Team. And this summer, he will lead Team Manitoba 17U Female Provincial Team to the Canada Basketball National Championships in Quebec as its head coach. He's a graduate of Steinbach Regional Secondary School and played post-secondary basketball at Providence College. He's a 4A Provincial Champion, taking home the title with Dakota this year. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Excited to be here.
Hey man, so you are a champion. You're a 4A provincial champion. This is something that very few people get to do as a coach or as a player. How's it feel?
Oh, it feels pretty sweet. It's a bit of a long time coming, I feel like. And, it's not just for the girls that were a part of the program this year, but, for the 7 years that I've been here, they've all shown interest, and even alumni from past have shown interest. So it's been awesome to bring it home and share it with all the alumni and our school and our building. So
yeah, man, absolutely. I know I've heard that from so many different coaches who've coached in one place for a long time, because it's like you're building a program, like you're building a culture, and each year, although like it's going to be an up and a down every year because there's different players coming in and out, all those past players have an effect on the future ones, right? So like that totally makes sense. What were some of the challenges you guys had as a team? I mean, I know you had a very talented team, so there must have been, maybe issues with kind of keeping them motivated or things like that. So, take us through the year. What type of challenges you have, and maybe what were some of your strategies kind of to keep them on task?
Yeah. We had a pretty talented group with the kind of the restrictions that we had this year. Travel wasn't an option. So seeking out competition or giving these girls opportunities to get exposure outside the province was a little bit difficult, but kind of the thing that we kept coming back to is kind of how we wanted to play and what we wanted to look like and sound like and feel like. And maybe there are some games where on paper we had the upper hand, but there was still, as cliche as it sounded, a process that we wanted to get through and what we wanted to be like. And because I'm a big person that's coaching the individual, and that kind of hopefully will in general affect the whole group's success. So a lot of these kids have aspirations of playing basketball after high school or being an athlete after high school. We had a lot of multi-sport kids on our team, and just showing them what hard work is, and being disciplined and following a game plan, and just being consistent day in and day out. And then just challenging them, making them comfortable being uncomfortable, putting them in situations that they might not want to be in. We had kids that, were on some talented teams growing up, but they never had leadership opportunities. So we put them in captain roles and stuff like that, where they could, build those types of skills. So those would probably just be the main couple for sure.
Yeah. I know, and it's like I wanted to ask that question because obviously, like I said, I did know that you had a talented group, but that's often the mistake that a lot of talented groups make, right? We're so good, we don't have to work hard, or they take other teams for granted. And I think that's when you have a talented team, sometimes it can be even a harder job to coach, because like you're like, okay, I have to keep them motivated. Right. Whereas if they know that every game is going to be a battle, sometimes it just, there's less work on that end. It's more about strategy. You know what I mean? I don't know how you experience that compared to like previous years.
Yeah. And that's the part I really enjoy, that part of bringing a group together and trying to make everybody work and feel a part of it. And, but yeah, you're definitely going to have your ups and downs. And with multi-sport kids, you have those conflicts as well of, they're pursuing other athletics, and trying to find that balance. But this group was pretty special, and they were all within the group, really handled the culture really well, and kept everybody tight and together. To be honest, it wasn't even me that had to do too much. It was the group was so just, they knew what the goal was, they knew what the plan was, they all wanted the best for each other. which was made my job really easy, right? Coming in and made it really enjoyable actually to come to practice every day and come to games every day and work with them. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Nice, nice. So I have to ask, like you had mentioned, obviously there was no travel this year really with, pandemic things, and obviously you missed some actual years of basketball. So I've kind of been asking coaches, how their perspective maybe changed, or even taking a step further, maybe how your mindset or even strategy or approach has changed, kind of going through that, right? Like, you take we were taking it for granted, naturally, human emotion, human thinking. We take things for granted until they're gone. It's all gone, and you're
Mhm.
sitting there as a coach looking at players who can't play. You obviously, maybe did whatever you could, but have you had any change of perspective? And then more so, have you had any change in strategy, whether it be off season or in season, that you were going to take kind of moving forward when we hope that things get back to normal?
Mhm. Yeah, like honestly, it was like every time the restrictions changed, it was almost an opportunity for the kids to celebrate that and embrace it and enjoy it. And it was from okay, we can get back on the court, but we can't. It's just skill work, and then it starts to look a bit more like a game. And then okay, you know what? We're actually having school ball again, and you got to represent your school. And I got to coach in one, right? Like I got to coach a group, and then that's exciting. Then you got to actually play in a game, and then you got to play with fans, and then next thing you know, we actually have a provincial championship, and all those things are just these little cherries on top that kind of just we don't take any of that for granted. Those are all what make the experience of playing high school athletics or playing basketball just in general.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't take any of that for granted. I've been fortunate. I've had an injury myself that's taken the game away from me, so I've never taken anything for granted. But it also led me to coaching. So, but given these kids' perspective and knowing that it could be taken away, and enjoy it and embrace it, have fun, and that's what we're doing. But also, competing is fun, right? And teaching those things of working towards something and team building, and that competition is fun, and you should enjoy it, and that's why we do it. And yeah, and don't take that for granted. As a perspective towards the coaching side of it all, as much opportunity to kind of get competition out of them as possible, with kind of the 2 years of kind of restriction changes of them being by themselves or playing without a defense, or they're just doing skill work. I gravitate towards more competitive small-sided stuff more than doing the skill work, I guess you'd say right now, just because of how much they've had of skill work
Hmm.
leading up to this.
Hmm.
I definitely gravitate towards, let's compete somehow within the skill work, right? In some shape or
Hmm.
form, with some of that social competitive part of it as well. So
Hmm.
mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, interesting time for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to kind of start, or shift, I should say, and kind of get your story here. You had mentioned a little bit about your injury, kind of how it got you into coaching, and we'll get to that. But I want to go back even further and kind of start with, as I usually do, with your first memory of basketball. Like, who introduced you to it? Who'd you start playing with? Was it a brother? Was it a parent? Was it a coach? Tell us a little bit about
uh
that.
well, my first basketball memory, I was probably like in second or first grade.
Yeah.
Me and my brother were in the neighborhood, and one of our neighbors, shout out Tim Harms, he's a longtime friend. He was a bit older than us. He was probably almost a teenager at the time, but he had a hoop on his driveway, and we had those little mini basketballs, and
Yeah.
we were just chucking them up, and he was just hanging out with us and being a nice kid on the street. And um, that would probably be my first memory. But kind of the organized basketball, and seeing my brother play as well growing up. But I would shout out Dave Dreger, who's a my best friend's dad. He was a middle school coach at our middle school in Steinbach, and he was a phys ed teacher there. And he was definitely probably the first person that got me into hoops. He really liked basketball. Basketball's not really exactly a hotbed in Steinbach.
Yeah.
So you got hockey and volleyball kind of taken over there. But I played with his son, and we had a good group that really enjoyed playing. And those are my earliest memories leading through to, playing pickup at Backstage, which was a youth drop in the area that had a nice outdoor court. And we played a lot of 3-on-3, 4-on-4 on that court with some older guys, and us guys, we just bike over and we play hoops in the sun all day, all night, and we loved it. So those are the spots. So
then when did it like become more serious for you? Because I know like you went to Steinbach Regional, and I know you played in the team. You obviously went on to play, college basketball. So at some point, it's still fun, but it becomes more serious where you're like, you know what, like I actually want to play this and be coached and take it seriously and maybe work on my game. When did that start happening?
Right. Being out in the rural area, kind of not pre-internet, but like early internet stages, right? Like information wasn't coming to us as fast as it does now. And learning about provincial team opportunities and trying out for those teams and playing on regional teams, or we had like an Eastman regional team that played in those regional tournaments, which were pretty sweet back in the day. Where, based on where you lived, you'd make these like kind of all-star teams that would play in this regional tournament, where I think they kind of used that almost to ID some provincial team kids during those times as well. And trying to make a provincial team was always kind of like the goal for me. And just kind of seeing where I stood. I always loved going to those tryouts, and I always kind of made it a little further every year, and just kind of seeing where I stood and kind of where I am. And I think that's something, even though, we're on this podcast and you're interviewing provincial team coaches, that's something I'd probably, motivate most athletes to do right now is kind of, it is scary to put yourself out there, but I would try out for those teams and kind of see where you fit and just leave it all out there, because it's a great opportunity to also just to play and compete. And if you like to hoop, what better than to get a full weekend of playing with the best, right? So, but that would probably be where I started taking it seriously. I really wanted to play at the collegiate level. This was kind of the era where And One mixtape was coming out, and
yes.
and I was, as a young adolescent, yes, you're being influenced by these DVDs, and I remember
Wait, what are those? What did you say? DVDs?
DVDs. I might even have
Shout
one
out.
here. I don't even know. I might even have one in the office. But you're being influenced by how showy and entertaining these guys were. And I remember my middle school coach, Dave Dreger, who he took me out to a Bison game once, and I think I was only in 10th grade, but he took me to a Bison game. It was my first university game I went to, and he said, "Oh, you gotta watch this Ryan Dalder kid. You gotta watch this
Dalder,
Ryan Dalder kid."
Yeah, shout out.
I was like, yeah, shout out Ryan Dalder. And I was like, sure.
Former Dakota Lancer, by the way.
Former Lancer. He works in the division. But yeah, and I remember watching him play, and he was like, yeah, he's the guy that gets the job done. And that was a big moment for me, just to kind of see how the game was played at that level, and kind of seeing him play, and how talented he was, and more how efficient he was. He wasn't doing anything that I saw on the N1 mixtape, even though maybe he wanted to, I don't know. But yeah, that was a moment where I kind of was like, man, that'd be sweet to play at the next level and do that. And it was a good atmosphere, and I think it was a good game. So yeah. Those are kind of those little things of trying out for teams and seeing it and being a part of it, and that made you kind of want to do it, right? So
yeah, it's like it's a process, right? It's like a little bit of exposure here, a little bit of exposure there. Then next thing you know, you're like, man, I really like I want to do this,
right?
It takes those small moments that you're describing there to kind of like get you going.
Totally.
So then you had mentioned your coach, middle school coach. Obviously, he was a mentor. He's bringing you to games. He's coaching you. So do you have any other mentors? And this can be, I know you've been coaching for a long time. You can speak on even coaching mentors in this regard, or people in college or afterwards that were kind of instrumental, even bringing you to where you are now.
Well, he helped me kind of get back into coaching. So when I was in, I know we're going to get to the injury, but in grade 12, I got hurt, and I hurt my knee really bad, and I wasn't able to coach, and I wasn't able to play, but he was still kind of involved in helping out at the middle school. And he brought me back to get into coaching. That was kind of my first real stint into being involved in the game and coaching. So that would probably be the person that kind of got me hooked into being involved in the game and giving back that way. so many mentors, that through my time being here, starting in the club game, coaching junior Bisons, I would, have to give a lot of, I was given a lot of opportunity from Pam Flick, former University of Manitoba coach. I was going to school there, and she was teaching a course, and she saw that I could play basketball, and asked if I had any opportunity, any aspirations of coaching or whatever. And I said, yeah, I'd love to coach. So she got me involved with junior Bisons, and that was probably my first kind of coaching outside of any kind of school system. So that was a great opportunity for me. And then guys that really have taken me under their wing, or I've learned a lot from, would be, John Lundgren, who's been at Oak Park and with Central Prep now, and with the Evolve program. Learned so much from him. All these people are my close friends. I learned a lot from him. I helped him out for a couple of years at Oak Park when I was teaching early years. And wasn't really coaching anywhere. And he gave me an opportunity to work with him there. And we had worked on provincial teams together as well. So just kind of seeing him, run practices and run a program, and, kind of his style of how he ran the show was really eye-opening for me. And I think as any coaches, you kind of want to be around as many coaches as possible and kind of take what you like. And if there's someone that I've taken a lot from, it's definitely him. Then you got guys like, Dan Becker, who I was able to work with through CP programming and watching him teach skill work and, manage a program, manage the team as well. Super helpful. That's a great opportunity for any young coach, if they can get involved, to be involved with those programs, or even just go and observe. You learn so much being with those two guys like that. And then in my own building right now, we got long time, legend coach Dean Favoni.
Shout out Dean.
Yeah,
we're gonna get Dean on here soon.
Yeah, please get him on. You're coming on this. You know what? I've had so many opportunities to hang out with him since I've been here. We've become such close friends. We talk about both our teams all the time, and figuring out what's best for our groups. And we've had a lot of late nights hanging out together, chatting it up, and
Sure.
watching games, and also just hanging out. And those are like those memories where, that's like professional development, that it's free. We're just hanging out, we're catching up, and we're getting the job done. And those are great memories. And those are great opportunities as well. Those are probably kind of, and then there's so many other people, like, oh man, there's so many coaches, like Coach Casano. Like, as soon as I started shifting, I was coaching boys with Jono, and I started shifting to the girls game, and Randy got me involved with that. And he's been so helpful. He's been in the game for so long. And he was helping my wife out with his group as well, her group as well. Sorry. And then I was, hanging around there as well too. So I've just been coaching everywhere, and there's so many opportunities, like so many people that have been so helpful. And it's just been awesome. There's the list is pretty long. So
yeah, well, I think that speaks to the community, right? I mean, and I think that's the one thing that I love about doing this podcast is hearing people like you and coaches who are even way older than us, and they're now mentioning other coaches who mentored them. And I think that's such an important thing. And part of this podcast is adding and helping connect the community, right? And so when other people get to hear coaches saying, oh, this person helped me, especially if you're a young coach, like, oh, okay, well, that's what I need to do, either help people or get help from someone, right? And like find a mentor. I think that's so important in coaching.
Right. Yeah, I know. One of the biggest things, I think Kirby said it on his podcast too, not really saying no to coaching opportunities. Shout out Kirby. He's also a great mentor as well. And I think, I had guys like Randy and Dan and John not really give me an opportunity to say no. Like, I was, as a young coach, that the opportunity is too good to say no to, right?
Yeah.
And I remember there was this one opportunity I had with Eliza Chan, was running a Chinese-based club team that was going to play at a Chinese national tournament, a North American tournament. And he reached out to me to do it, and I was kind of humming and hawing, and then I got a call from Randy, and Randy kind of basically just kicked me in the butt and said, "You're doing this. Like, I don't know why you
Yeah.
wouldn't do this, right?" So, and it was I think I had 3 years with those guys, and it was a great opportunity not only to connect with culture myself, but also just to give these kids an opportunity to play and play, against everyone across the
Yeah.
country, right? And across North America, actually.
Yeah.
And those kids were awesome. They're so, they're so thankful for the opportunity, and just, Eliza, for ability to put that together was awesome, and it was a great experience that, I don't take for granted. So
For sure, for sure.
mhm.
Yeah, like you were saying there, like not saying no. I mean, obviously there's at some point you start saying no, but when you're young, you never say no because like
Mhm.
you're just trying to get as much opportunity as possible. And that's just great advice from Kirby. And obviously he's something that he lived, and I've heard other people who have kind of taken that on, and they found great success. Like you just said it. You're like, hey, I did this, and I had a great time, right? And you
Mhm.
don't know what opportunities may not have come if you didn't do it. You have no idea. You know,
Mhm.
it's always easy to see what came, but you don't know what could have been if you didn't do something like that's something you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? You only know what you know. So it's like you take those opportunities so you get as much exposure and opportunity as possible. I think that's just like such good advice. So I have to ask you, you brought it up. Tell us a story how you got into coaching. You obviously starts with a knee injury. The guy's like, "Hey, come coach." You're coaching junior high. Like, what was that? What were you doing? Helping him
uh
out?
yeah yeah, grade 12 year, preseason tournament, took a charge, blew up my knee. Wasn't great, tough year to end your grade 12 year, but really loved the
You
game.
didn't get to play, right? Like
No,
that.
I
That
didn't get
was
to play.
complete. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get to play, and uh yeah, so that was tough to watch, being around the guys and watching them play, and um kind of helping out as much as I could. But I loved the game, and coaching, a coach brought me back to the middle school to kind of help out, and as much as I could while being involved with the high school team, right? And I'm young, I didn't know that what this injury was, and kind of figuring it out on my own. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna miss the whole year, right? So yeah, that kind of got me the itch to start coaching, and that was my first little taste of it, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then you said after that was your next step was doing the junior bisons essentially. Did you like you played obviously you played at Providence. Did you do any coaching from in between those times?
No, like that was kind of, yeah, that was the lead up till then. So I rehabbed back, and kind of had, like you said, I really wanted to play post secondary basketball. So I rehabbed, and had got an opportunity at Providence, played a couple of years there. And then was going to school at the university. They had a little developmental team that you were coaching, that was potentially trying to get to MCAC, and you actually coached me with, as you know, and I ran with those guys for a bit, and then yeah, then this opportunity came up to work with junior bisons. I was coaching with Superior Chin,
Mm-hmm.
who I ended up co-working with eventually at Seven Oaks. But yeah, great coach, great opportunity. It was so much fun to coach with them, and be involved with the girls game. We had a great group. It's aging me now, because like half that team has kids now, and it's
Yeah,
crazy. So
a long time ago.
yeah, so yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
So
that was kind of my first stint. So
let's reflect back. Let's do again. I don't know if you've ever had this like thought about this before, but obviously now when I ask you, okay, like why do you coach? You can come up with like a bunch of reasons, like oh, it's this, it's this, it's this. But if we went back then and you coached that first year, if you could think back, what was it besides being connected to the game? Because that's obvious, right? Like we love the game, coaching lets us connect to the game. But what is it, or what was it back then that you said, okay, you know what, I actually really like doing this. And as you we described earlier on, remember we were talking about how I said, well, how did you start taking basketball serious? You said, oh, it's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Obviously you got this experience and something about it said, you know what, I enjoy this. I want to keep doing it. Now
mhm.
do you remember what that was? And if you
Oh,
don't, just tell us what it is now.
no, back then, having that opportunity to, coach those girls would probably be just to be involved with the game. Like, I kind of was on the edge of it's not going to be a part of my life as much anymore, and I
Hmm.
wanted to be in the gym a little bit more. And like you said, I love the game, but giving back and being a part of a team, there's something about that that's
Hmm.
pretty special. And I think that would probably be it. Like I don't think I was ready at the stage where I enjoyed the competition or was working for the competition of it, or kind of seeing if my coaching style worked or my strategies or philosophies work. I didn't know what my strategies and philosophies were. Like I was still
Yeah,
figuring that
yeah,
out, right? Like I think it was just to be a part of the group and be in the
yeah,
gym and
yeah.
and be a part of a team. Like that's something that I didn't take for granted. I enjoyed being in the gym and being, like I talked about, being growing up in a rural school. Like you didn't have access to the gym. There was no Y
Hmm.
out there. Like I'm playing
Yeah.
outdoors in the sun. Like that's all we had. So to be in the gym in winter and be a part of a group, and I think that was kind of the what kind of drew me to helping out. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think I asked that question just because like people have different reasons why. Like, you might hear some people say, "Hey, I just really liked helping people," right? Like that might be their main motivation. And like you
mhm,
said, yours is probably like at that point, it was like, "Hey, like to be part of a group with surrounded by people who also love the game that I love, and that's the group that I'm a part of. That's pretty special, right? And especially
mhm,
as a young man, you're not playing anymore. You're like, okay, like what can I do? And that totally makes sense. That's probably the reason why a lot of people start doing it. So then, if we fast forward to now, what keeps you motivated? Like, I know, and I can say this because I've interviewed them. Um, some of the old school legends, they honestly, and this is real talk because they said it, it's just like winning, like straight up. I asked Jerry Hemmings what his most memorable moment was, and he talked about a loss. So we know, we know that he's there to win. Like
mhm.
he's like, I'm here to win. I don't know what other reason would I have, and that's fine. That's his reason, right? Those are his reasons why.
Right.
So, you know, focusing back on you, what are some of your reasons why
Why I keep
now?
doing, yeah, now.
Yeah, like what keeps you kind of like involved? Like what keeps you excited about coaching? Why do
Right.
you want to work with people, right? Because you could be like, I'm a teacher. I don't have to coach. You know what? I want to
Right.
go home. I'm just
Right.
gonna, play basketball with my friends. And what keeps you
Yeah.
what keeps you going? Is it the same
Seeing
thing, I guess?
what, yeah. I think two things. One of the most rewarding things for me as a coach is when kids, reach their goal and you're kind of a part of it in some shape or form, right? The whole takes a village to raise someone or raise a kid, but like some of the, being having your opportunity to connect with them and give them their opportunities to get better and to reach their goal, whatever it may be. Maybe it was to start at the varsity level, or maybe it is to play post-secondary. Those are some of the most rewarding opportunities I've had, and when we travel, me and my wife travel across the country, I'm kind of I have a mental tab going of which kids playing where, and can we go watch them play, right? Like, can we
Mm-hmm.
go and connect with them and show them our support. And also it's a cool experience to see them play at those higher levels.
Yeah.
Um, and even watching some of my other kids play that are multi-sport kids, right? Like I'll go and watch them play other sports just because I want to see them succeed. And those relationships are kind of what keep me going and kind of drive me to do what I do. But then, yeah, I don't think you're far off with the competition part. I love competition. I love competing. I love working towards something. And I think that's okay. I think
Yeah,
I tell
absolutely.
I tell my athletes that I think competition is fine. There's lots of competition in the world. So, and that's what makes the games enjoyable and what makes coaching enjoyable. Um, yeah, I think if there was two things, that those would probably be it. Those would probably
Yeah,
be it, the reasons why I keep doing what I'm doing right now. So,
for sure. Well, those are
mhm,
those are, those are good reasons. I love the idea because something that I probably share with you is the idea of you're almost like living vicariously through them, right? Because you can't play, but you teach them a skill even, and then they learn it, and then they do it, and then they're super pumped, and you're like happy for them. Like
yeah,
those are special moments, right? Like
yeah,
sometimes it's just little things, it's just this tiniest thing. Like someone that couldn't, you're teaching an offense, and for whatever reason, this person just doesn't do it right, but then they get it, and they're like, oh, I get it. Like whatever it may be, those moments are super cool.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, those are great moments.
So you talked about your wife. You brought up
Hmm.
your now Coach Sung. We have two Coach Sungs, Michelle and Eric. Um, she was on the podcast before, and when I interviewed her, I talked about being pregnant during coaching, and I actually brought up some of the family stuff. So I'm going to ask you a child-related question. Uh, so two basketball parents, heavily involved in the game, right? Obviously, their kids, your kids are going to be exposed to the game, right? There's no way. Even if you say, look, we're not letting our kids play basketball. Even if you said that, like they're still going to be there because there's games. Like they're going to be in the gym all the time, right? So the question I have is, what is your approach? Because I've talked with basketball parents before, and I won't say who said this specifically, but I said one time, I said, like, are you going to let your kids play other sports? And it's like, oh, they can play other sports, but they're going to play basketball. And I said, well, if they don't want to, they have no choice. I was like, okay, cool, I guess. So have you and the two coach songs, have you sat down and talked about, moving forward, how your approach towards your kids falling in love with basketball? Like if they say, I don't want to play, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to be putting them in leagues? Like, just have you talked about that? Just tell me what's been going
Oh,
on so far.
yeah, we've talked about it. As as much as we want them to play hoops, we really just want them to be into something, and it can be anything.
Yeah.
And we really want it to done. If you would ask my wife right now, she really hopes our young one gets a golf scholarship somewhere warm right now, like real quick. And
Yes.
like that's the dream for her right now, is that our young one Jolie gets a golf scholarship somewhere, and she's carrying the bag or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. As much as I would love for them to be into hoops, and like you said, they've had tons of exposure, and Bryant traveled across the country the first year, when coaching, when being around with my, hanging, she's still feeding, so but he's on every flight and every bus, and he's going to every game, so he's had tons of exposure. And as much as we'd love for them to fall in love with the game as much as we have, sometimes I don't think that's realistic, right? So but as long as they're into something, I hope they're into something, even if it's music or arts, or
For sure.
or even a different sport, right? Like as long as they're into something, that'd be awesome.
You want them to
So,
find a passion,
yeah,
spite of whatever your passions are. But now imagine that Brian's like, yo, I love basketball. Now you have two coaches. Who's gonna coach?
oh, we already know who's coaching, and it's not me.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not me.
No? Why?
No, I have talked with many parents about how they can just sit and watch their kid play and not like say something or be nervous or engage with the game. And so many parents are so good, they just sit and they enjoy it and they love it. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to sit there and watch my kid play. I'm going to be so nervous. I don't know.
So then hold on. Then wouldn't the role be to coach then?
No,
because you're going to have to watch the games regardless.
Yeah, I'll sit there and try to. I think I'd have way too much control than if I was the coach. I think Michelle would handle it way better than I would.
Yeah. I think, and I mean, who knows? I guess, I mean, there is something to be said about, he's your son, and so maybe it's best if you're just like,
well,
but again, and you could still like work with him, right? Like, hey, you're still gonna do stuff with him, but you're talking about like, hey, if there's teams and things like that, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. There's a group of us that all had boys kind of around the same age as my oldest right now, and there's a lot of coaches that had kids around our kids' age. So we have this little coaching team here.
Yeah.
We got so many names. Lundgren's kid is only a day older than my guy, and Ogo's got a boy, and even another former provincial team assistant coach with me, Dallas Bosco, has a kid as well. And there's so many of them that have kids we're all around the same age. And what happens if we have a little group who's coaching, right? Like,
exactly. Who's going to coach that? Maybe, hopefully none of you guys can all sit in there and just
hang out
watching. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I had to ask that question just because, I'm like, we had your wife on, and it's one thing to have one coach. It's one thing to have one coach. Like, never mind, both parents are coaches. That's a whole other game.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I hope it happens.
It'll be fun though. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be good. It'll be good. Either way, like you said, maybe they'll have other passions, and you can learn something new about whatever their passion is, right?
Totally.
You could actually just be one of those parents that doesn't know anything, right? Like that's the one thing. It's like, so, basketball, if you go watch kids play, you see parents saying crazy stuff. They just don't understand, right? Most of them. Some of them will get it and they're just a little intense. Other ones, they just don't understand the game. They don't get it. But now you go and watch some other sport that you don't know, It's
Right.
like you get to be the parent with a little bit of ignorance in you, right? And you just sit
Hmm.
back and just like, okay, I actually don't know what's happening here, and I'm just going to enjoy it. So maybe that's your future, but we'll find out. Time will tell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a few questions, but just about you. But before we do that, I wanted to kind of check in real quick, because I didn't even ask you. Oddly enough, is with the provincial team stuff. Have you started practice? Like, when does practice start? Tryouts haven't even taken place yet, correct?
No. Yeah. Tryouts are at the end of the month. In
Okay.
May, and last
End
weekend
of
in
May.
May.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when the tryouts are, and then yeah, we're going for almost 2 months.
Do you
Um,
know where you're going yet? Are there trips planned
yeah.
besides Quebec?
Yeah. Quebec, and then there is a we go to Brandon to meet other provincial teams out
Yep.
west, kind of the
Yep.
set, kind of the meeting spot, and then we go to Minneapolis twice as well to play in a couple
Nice.
tournaments out there.
Nice. Nice. And who's
So
who's on your staff? Do you know?
my
Or can you
staff,
say? Are
yeah,
you allowed?
I can say we got Claire and Ashley and Emma Thompson. So I got, three strong female coaches that
Nice.
have great experience coaching and playing as well.
Nice.
So it's exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited. We're all really excited actually to work together and kind of give these kids a good experience. So
For sure. Well, it'll be good.
mhm.
I mean, again, like we have as of airing, it's the 10th today, I believe.
Mhm.
So, if this comes out, it might be really close to provincial team, or it might be after. But
Okay.
yeah, in any case, it's good luck, and
Thank you.
obviously we will be following. Okay, so back to you. Most memorable basketball moment, story, moments. I mean, some people describe entire seasons, or they'll talk about a specific team. Some people have super small moments that are
Oh my
stand out
goodness.
to them. And I always say this too, like it can be anything, man. Like it doesn't have to be as a coach. It can be as a player. It could be in a pickup game, even. It's just something that you'd sit around and you would talk with your friends about, or like, hey, remember when that happened?
Oh my gosh, what are some good stories? I A good playing story. This is a pretty funny one. We were in Oklahoma with Providence College. We're playing in like a national tournament out there. So we're in Oklahoma, and um, I think it might have been opening game, and I'm in late, and the boys talk about this game all the time. But I think I come off of some sort of movement. I'm coming off a pin down or something like that. I'm coming all the way to the top. So I'm at the top. I'm going to catch and shoot. So I catch and shoot like this is going in. Like I'm Klay Thompson. I'm Steph Curry. Like it is the body language. The confidence is high. Ball goes up. I shoot it. I swear I almost broke the backboard. So hard. Like
Like you just hit
people,
glass, like boom, and it just came off.
it pretty much came back to me. Like I think people stopped playing because it hit the backboard so hard. That is a very repeated story with the guys I played with.
So people they clown you about it, is what you're saying.
Yes, that would be one. Um, and then
Oh, I love it.
coaching wise, oh, there's so many. Um, yeah, coaching wise, there's so many, but I don't know if I want to say, this year was pretty memorable for me, right?
Yeah.
We put a ton of time in, and kind of leading up to that final game, we actually weren't playing our best basketball. So I leading up to it, we were getting by these games, but we weren't playing great, and our defense was awesome, but we just having so much trouble scoring, and that was a pretty memorable game because they just kept on telling the girls leading up to that the prep leading up to that final game. I kept on telling them like, we're a scary team to play right now. Like like we're gonna make shots and we're gonna score and we're gonna you girls are gonna offense is gonna be moving pretty well, I think here. And I
Hmm.
don't know if people want to play us right now. Like we're due to make some baskets.
Hmm.
And we come out, and my assistant coaches are like, oh yeah, like I think this is going to be the game. Like I think we're going to be okay. Um and sure enough, we have our grade 11 kid, Q, comes out and just makes a three, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Then she makes another one, and then she makes another one, and then our
Hmm.
whole team is just flowing and our offense is
Yeah.
moving, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, this is what we've been missing. Like, so and just kind of having that weight taken off, and then and just winning. Yeah, that was
Mhm.
that. What a moment for that group, and for this program as well. That was really probably one of my most memorable ones for sure. So
Yeah.
I have lot of losses in there that haunt me. But I don't want to bring those up, so we're fine.
Okay, okay. So I'm gonna ask, and I'm gonna ask you go back to a player. This is specifically as a player. So now let's fast forward. You're 80 years old, and you're sitting there, and your grandchild asks you like, I saw this photo, like you played basketball, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I played basketball, and he asks you a question about like some of your teammates, and he goes, well, who is your most memorable teammate? Like someone that you played with that, you know what, they just stand out. And I know you still play senior men's. You played lots of senior men's. You played at Providence, so it's like you've played with plenty of people.
Oh, there's so
So
many.
who would be that player that you'd say, you know what,
Oh,
and why? So they're memorable, okay, and then why are they memorable? Why would they be memorable?
oh.
You're 80 years old. You're not
Okay.
gonna remember all of them. You're only gonna remember a few, right?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh, there's so many. Okay. Well, top.
There's so many, man.
Can I
I'm
say
talking
two?
about like you can give me a list if you want, but I
Oh
figured
yeah.
there'd be like one or two guys. Like, okay,
No,
here are the
there's
two. But
so many,
okay,
so
let's see
many.
who
Okay. Number
at the
one,
risk of offending anyone. Let's
I'll
hear
say
your list.
say a couple kid. I'll say a
Okay,
couple guys. Okay.
okay.
So, um, I think our good friend, future Hall of Famer, as I'll say, Graham Bodner would
Yeah,
be
shout out.
on the top of my list for guys that kind of just show you how hard you can work at something. And he's someone that keeps getting better as he's like a wine man, fine wine. He's just getting
No
better as he
idea
gets
how.
older.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
absolutely.
know how time stops for him and how he gets better, but just to see his work ethic and how much he cares, and how competitive he is, really molded me as a player when I was coming up and playing. So he would probably be up there in kind of the guys I enjoy, would talk about that impacted me as a player, but also really enjoyed playing with.
Hmm.
Um, Shout out one of my best friends, Matt Curtis, point guard for Western. He was a great friend of mine. Doesn't live here anymore, but we had the opportunity to play a couple of years of senior men's together. And the saying, like, like that saying that they say about players, like, oh, he made other people better. Like,
Yeah. Oh
like,
man.
oh man, like Michael was so good, he made other people
Yeah.
better, or whatever. Steve Nash
Yeah.
was so good, he made other people better. Matt Curtis, literally, you had no other option
Oh yeah.
but to just shoot it or score it, because he would give you the ball exactly where you wanted it, when
Yeah.
you wanted it, and the decision was try to put it in the net right now. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't have, there was no other decision to make.
Yeah.
And that was my first real experience playing with a guy that, like, whoa, this guy actually is making our whole group better.
Yeah.
And what a skill to have. Like, I don't know how you practice that or coach that, but like, his vision and passing and feel for the game was, even in the senior men's level, was
Oh
phenomenal.
man.
I don't even want to know what it was like at the collegiate level or at the pro level. So those would probably be two guys I would shout out for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, both. I mean, I played obviously. We had
You played
mentioned
with
Graham's
both
our
of them.
good friend, but
Yeah.
with Matt, yeah, like he was. I remember he'd like get mad. He'd like shoot it. Like you get mad at people because like they're and it's funny because you said he put the ball where you wanted. Blah blah blah. Sometimes you didn't even want it. You didn't know. Like you didn't even know you wanted it. He's telling you, and you're like, oh, I'm open. Oh, I didn't know that. That's how good he was. It was. Yeah. Everything you said is absolutely accurate. Like it
Yeah.
was. You'd be running just up the side of the court or just doing some random cut just to get out of the way, and then he'd pass you the ball, and you're like, "What?
Yeah.
What? I didn't even want this thing." But you're like under the hoop, and you're like, "Okay, I guess I'll do something with it." Yeah, he was definitely special. Those are two quality guys for sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. One last question here. Question I'll ask everybody is always about advice, right? So you look back. You said you've had some really good mentors. They've kind of guided you. Sometimes they've forced you to get out there and coach. Um, so what advice would you pass on, to your younger self? That's an easy way to think about it. Or just, you're standing in a group of in front of a group of young coaches, and you've now been coaching for quite a while compared to someone who's just starting. You obviously have some insights that you've provided some of them already, but what would you want them to walk away from that interaction with? So focus on those pieces of advice. And what would you tell them?
Man, there's a couple things that I think the first one would be what we talked about earlier, would be not giving up opportunities. Like if you get opportunities to coach, especially if you're a younger coach and, you don't have that too many stresses in your life already, good or bad, that you get involved and that you help out and that those opportunities don't come around too often. So saying no is probably not an option. But one of the things I would take away would just be around coaches, watch coaches, go and observe practices, assistant coach under other coaches. Those are some of those moments. That's like I said before, like coaching development, professional development that you can't, there's no class for that. Like being and watching a coach, do his craft and connect with kids or connect with their athletes and run a team and coach in game. Like those are such great opportunities for you to learn from and take what you like, make it yourself. And that probably my next one is be yourself. Don't be, there's so much coaching content out there right now and, so much stuff on social media and, so much stuff you can read and, videos you can watch and all this stuff, but be yourself. When it comes down to it, kids can read you right away. And if you're mimicking or being somebody that you're not, the kids are going to walk all over you and athletes will walk all over you. Be yourself. And those would probably be the ones that I would, those would probably be some of those tidbits that I would be talking to my younger self or talking to younger coaches as well to do.
Nice. That's a great way to finish. It's great advice. Said it already, but good luck this year with the provincial team.
Thank you.
And you know what? I will likely see you soon. For anyone who's listening, Eric and I obviously know each other pretty well. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Good luck with the provincial team season, and I will likely see you next time in a gym somewhere or out having a bite.
Awesome.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Care.
Thanks, Pass Manitoba. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.